G'day, film fans. I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to keep us honest, we've turned this one episode into a drinking game. None of the others have a drinking game, just this one.
We don't ever do this.
Yeah. So if anyone says anything negative, because we're tired of those shitty critics that just crap all over things, more on that later. If anyone says anything negative, there's a sound. And that means we're drinking. So pour yourselves a glass, gentlemen, our shot. And we're going to talk about a movie who has a character who's been hit in the head so many times, he has to remind it who his dad is every movie.
That was one of your better ones. That was good. Cheers.
Yes, we are
they
talking
don't want
about...
you to forget. They don't want him to forget. Don't forget.
Yeah.
It's not in the title.
How many times do I have to tell you this? Smack up the head. Creed. Oh, shit. He's forgotten again. Yes, we're talking about Creed 3. You may notice that it's just the two of us tonight. Jeff is not with us. Jeff has been sent to a farm upstate for critics for being too negative. I don't know whether you guys know this. Like, I know Matt and Mark on their show know this because he calls their voicemail all the time. But Jeff leaves us messages all the time too. Sometimes at 3 in the morning, sometimes drunk. And this does contain a couple of little spoilers, but I'll just this is what we found on our messages this week. This is Jeff having just seen the Mandalorian pilot, like the first episode, season 3, episode 1.
Yeah. So don't turn it off or skip ahead if you don't want to hear anything about it. But I'm excited to listen. What do we got?
Some light spoilers here. So I've broken this up because I feel like we need to return a couple of comments here.
Okay, I'm sending you. It's a gripe, but it's really about the Mandalorian, and there's spoilers. So I'm going to send this, and feel free to use it on the air. If you don't, I'm giving it to Matt and Mark.
Okay, first of all, don't be giving away our fucking content to other shows. I'm the only one that can
Jeff,
do
what
that.
The fuck?
Like, what's he doing? Use this, or I'll send it to Matt and Mark. What the hell? He goes on.
I need to do this. Okay,
he needs to do this.
So Mandalorian season 3 episode 1 comes out, and spoiler, it's fucking stupid. So It starts with a baptism sequence, which is fine. Having a child become a Mandalorian is really uncool. I thought Mandalorians were basically like Navy SEALs, but instead, apparently, they give it to 13-year-olds who can't even protect themselves and have to be taken to shore when something comes up. That little piece of shit kid is not ready to be a Mandalorian. Also, the fact that there's crocodiles bigger than blue whales and they're doing the baptism there anyway, it seems like a pretty dumb idea. It seems like they're pretty foolish and don't know what they're doing. Actually, it made all the Mandalorians look stupid because they're all just standing around while this thing attacks them, and none of them, I don't know, backed up, got to the higher ground, ran into the cave. They all just stood there and died lamer deaths than the fucking Sarlacc pit.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, don't pick on the kids. Don't pick on the kids. Like, oh, Jesus. 2, alligators turning up during your initiation. Climate change, dude. Fucking, it's going to happen. Get used to it. Third of all, it's the Mandalorians didn't take the high ground. They activated their fucking jetpacks and flew through the air. Like, I don't know how much fucking higher ground you can take with that. But he goes on.
I just want to point out, too, that part of Jeff's intro into our show, if anybody has forgotten, that he usually takes heat against the lazy critics who say negative things. And I'm enjoying the irony of this intense negativity, Jeffrey.
That's why he's at a farm upstate this week instead of on the show. He goes on.
Does that mean
one of the deaths looked like the croc death in Hook, which was a comedy? He's like, "Wah!" Well, he's in like the croc's mouth. It looked childish. These are the Mandalorians. I thought they were cool. They looked incompetent.
Okay, Jeff. Fuck you, man. I don't know how many fucking crocs you've been inside of, but it's a pretty devastating fucking experience. Leave that guy alone.
So then they go through space. They're flying through warp speed. And guess what? There's space whales. What do they have to do with the rest of the story? Again, absolutely nothing. Just something to give the CGI team something to do. Space whales riding that, space wake, which makes no sense because I don't know much about aerodynamics, but I don't think there's space wake out there. And at warp speed, the idea that they're going the exact same speed, even if they were just hologram images, the whole thing is just cheap. It's just made for children. More on that later.
All right, he's
pissed
at this point. Okay, 1, nobody gives their fucking visual effects department just something to do. Do you have any idea how fucking expensive and time-consuming visual effects are? 2, those space whales are prominent in the Star Wars Rebel series. And I know one lady in Seattle who came at me after we did an Elvis thing for not doing our research properly, who is shitting bricks right now at you. They are a prominent, like, huge part of the content and lore right now. So, yep, maybe do your research, Jeff. But he goes on.
Jeff.
So let's just talk for a second here. We've got crocodiles, whales, and pirates. What the fuck is this? Mandalorian, the way of water? Is space an ocean now?
So Jeff's going off the rails.
This is what I think. Because this whole episode was so dumb, guys. This was such a dumb episode. I am convinced they had a conversation and they said, should we keep making a really good, grounded adult show? Because we're selling a lot of backpacks. We're selling a lot of milk containers and lunch boxes and shirts, all milk to kids. So I got an idea.
With
we'll
that
justify
lost
some of our
Mandalorian
budget
kid on it
by just putting in the backpack and lunchbox money into our budget and just make a show for kids. This is now a kid show, and it's stupid.
Yeah, so first of all, the milk container has a picture of that missing little 13-year-old Mandalorian on it. I mean, I get where he's going with this, but like Star Wars has always been about the merchandise. That one might be a fair gripe. And I must admit, when I flicked to the Mandalorian to start it, Disney Plus had an ad for where to buy the merchandise on the fucking page before I played it. So that one I'll give him. Everything else, go fuck yourself, Jeff.
Nobody's trying to buy the Andor planet ponchos for nobody. They're not really merching out that show as much.
They're surprisingly flammable.
Okay. Well, Jeff, you know what? I'm glad you got it off. Man, you really raked him over the coals, dude. You're just one episode in, too. I'm just going to propose this for my co-host Jeffrey to consider. Maybe it's time for you to stop watching Star Wars Entertainment, because I feel like you have exclusively bitched about every program except for Andor, which is like 1 out of 4 or 5 now. Yeah, man, I'm sorry you hated it so much, and I'm really sorry that you're the co-host of a podcast where we're supposed to speak constructively about material. Jeffrey, I'm buzzing you.
Take that.
That is for you. You would be wasted by the intro of our show if that had been your show gripe.
If we buzz that, we'd break the record.
He's upstate. We sent him upstate. That doesn't mean that he was hit by a car and he's never coming back. He is coming back. And when he does, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to come after him. I want the comments. I want people to be fucking furious over that review. And maybe, just maybe, if I know Jeff, he'll probably get a little further into Mandalorian 3 season 3 and actually find some enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you
just took too long to get there, that's usually what he says.
If you're watching or listening to this, feel free to leave a message for Jeff in the comments.
He'll love
it.
We should make our voicemail available so we can hear people just fucking screaming at him. Get a Google number.
We have one.
All right. Well, that was. I wish I could say that was purely enjoyable, but he really just brought the show down. Thanks, Jeff. So we're gonna get things back on track.
If you're still with us,
Jesus Christ. If you're still with us,
you know how I know he was drunk? Because you could actually listen to that on 2 times speed.
I know. I was going to make a joke about that. That's what it sounds like when he has discernible speech that is clear to understand, and isn't lightning fast. That's what it sounds like.
And that's after a 6-pack. Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, Jeff. We'll see you next week. I think we're Dukes are up for that. We're definitely going to give you shit in person for that as well. But thank you for doing that, Dave. That was hilarious. I just have a tiny gripe this week. It's just I can't. If you want to hit the clock, it's more of an observation, really. I'm just curious. Hit me.
You're on.
I understand that our generation of millennials is now making a lot of entertainment, nostalgia-based 80s entertainment, specifically like Stranger Things, what have you. But Gen Z, the mullet was supposed to stay dead. What the fuck is happening, dude? I am at USC on campus every day, and every day I'm seeing more and more very bold mullets. These are not homages to mullets. These are not, is that a mullet? These are as bad as you've ever seen mullets from the 80s and from white trash rat tail America. I mean, this is getting out of control. And I just want to ask, is it because of that entertainment? Are we going back? Do they not realize that was the one decade that we all agreed upon? Whoops, So for some reason, this thing is very popular now, and I don't understand it. Gen Z, explain it to me. All right, sure.
On that note, I will say though, like they're remaking Roadhouse at the moment, and if there's not a fucking mullet in that, I'm turning it off.
Well, hey, there better be mullets in the background because I'm sure everybody saw Jake Gyllenhaal ripped to fucking pieces, and he does not have a mullet. So I guess this is a modern day because MMA wasn't even really. No, it wasn't super around back then, was it? So
no.
Did you see that video of him where he like hits that guy?
Yes, I did.
I hope that's not what they use in the film because I don't know if I bought it.
Just try to picture it under lights and with a lot of CG.
Unlike this movie that we're about to talk about, but I'm excited. Creed 3. Dave, do you have a gripe? Do you have something you want to get off your chest?
I do have a little bit of a gripe because I just had the worst behaved audience I've had in a fucking theater since pre-pandemic, man. It was ridiculous. Full conversations, like back and forth during the movie. One woman updated her phone using voice recognition during the quiet part in the middle where they're like emoting and all you can hear is this fucking Siri voice going off down the front somewhere. And like I found her, but I was this close to like, are you fucking kidding me? Down the theater. But I think the best player on ground, and this is a special recognition award to the guy and girl sitting right next to me in the recliners who repeatedly tried to finger his girlfriend throughout the movie. And she knew it wasn't that dark, and I knew it wasn't that dark. Why the fuck didn't he get it wasn't that dark? Worst audience ever.
Dude, that guy was going for it. Oh my goodness!
He took his shot.
Was this couple?
Late teens, early 20s. She was not into it.
That's still the time when you do that.
Just gonna say, and then I'm like, all right, it's fair game. I whipped my dick out, and apparently I'm the pervert.
Oh God! Oh, yeah. David! Oh my! Yeah,
I did not do that.
Take your shake for that one. Oh, Dave. I unfortunately, when you go to the movies as often as us, I think I have also been way too close to a couple who were doing things underneath clothing at least once in my movie going years. What the fuck, people?
Yeah, that's what the back row's for. Fuck off back there.
Be a normal person. Go to the back row and wait till it's an empty showing.
I was in fucking row D, and you're sitting in the seat next to me. Like, what?
They're like in a great seat in the middle of the theater.
Yeah. Also, it's Dolby Cinema. Like,
he's like, oh, I don't want to sacrifice. I want a great seat while this is happening.
Yeah, I want you to be comfortable.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, yeah, I guess he was a gentleman.
Yeah, he at least gave her a great seat. Jesus Christ. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry you had a bad screening.
Bad behavior.
But I guess that's going to take us into, because I want to know how that affected your viewing of this movie. We're talking about Creed motherfucking 3. That is the third installment in this reimagining of the next generation of the Rocky franchise, initially helmed by Ryan Coogler for one. Ryan Coogler still has story credits on the other films. His brother Keenan Coogler has co-written these screenplays along with whoever is directing. Michael B. Jordan directed this installment, number 3, still produced with the Cooglers, still, and a bunch of other people, including Sylvester Stallone, still co-written by Keenan Coogler, still story credit by Ryan Coogler. So this still has the Cooglers draped all over it, but not to undermine, this is Mr. Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut. He has produced a bunch, it looks like, mostly exec credits, but he has produced several projects for sure that aren't just an executive producer credit.
That's the dream, isn't it? To get to the point where you can just fund your own work.
That really is the dream. And especially what's awesome about him, and then I'll shut up so we can actually talk about the movie. He has now produced more personal, not that this isn't personal, that's not the right word, more original IP that might not garner as much of an incredible cash flow and return on investment as IP like fucking Creed.
Yeah.
That is definitely going to churn it out. But he got to take chances on things like Just Mercy, the courtroom drama with him and Jamie Foxx several years ago, and other credits, and get involved with TV and original series behind the scenes. So this is pretty cool, getting to see him take a chance on something that, still having a lot of influence from from the Cooglers, being able to work with material that was so dominated by Ryan Coogler and his brother going into this, having that mentorship. I'm sure that was a big part of it, but I am looking forward to talking about what he, I think, did do that is different from those other two movies, and why I found it to be a really enjoyable
different
third
tone,
installment. Yeah. So I want to hear what you think, Dave. This was your first time seeing any of these movies. Did you watch the other two?
I spent the entire, because they've just dropped on HBO Max.
Yes.
And I watched 1 and 2. And I'm a huge fan of Rocky, mainly like Rocky's still a masterclass in screenwriting because the inciting incident doesn't happen until the middle of the film. So that's a big one to talk about in screenwriting class and stuff like that. Creed doesn't use that same structure, but they're equally as well written. I know for at least Creed 2, I think it was, Sly had a screenwriting credit on that as well.
Nice.
But I love the Rocky films. After a while they started to slide a bit, and so when Creed came out, I just kind of didn't really. Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt the same way. And then I sat down and watched them yesterday and today, and holy shit, man, did I miss out? I called my dad straight away. I called my dad straight away. I'm like, have you seen this? Like, you need to watch this. Like, go drop what you're doing. Go. I don't care if it's 3 a.m, Dad. Fucking go. Just get up and watch this. And so he's gonna go and watch it. But
Dave, in the AFC. The Nicole Kidman thing.
Yeah.
Every time you see where she says that line about where our heroes are.
It's Creed.
It shows B just hitting his chest. Like, I literally tear up every time that happens because it's so fucking good in Creed 1.
I love the first one. I love the second one. This, like you said, is a different tone. But that does not at all mean it wasn't as enjoyable at all. Yeah. It's a great trilogy in whole. They're 3 for 3 in my opinion. This was great. And I tell you what, during the fight, when the rounds finished, people in my theater were clapping. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that was weird for me, but it's cool.
So you liked it. Yeah.
I have a couple of things with it, but I liked it.
Yeah. No, I think I'm excited to hear those things because, in some ways, there were some things that we can definitely discuss that may not have been as good as the rest of it, but to put it in context of, it's always difficult rounding out a trilogy. That's always difficult. It's always difficult continuing IP regardless. If the original take on the IP was fantastic. And this was already up against Rocky. People like you and me we kind of resisted seeing Creed initially anyway. And then after the first one, you're dealing with, wow, that first one was really excellent. So the bar is really high. Now one of our greatest contemporary directors has put his stamp on this as his second feature. Creed was his second fucking feature, Dave. Isn't that crazy? That was Ryan Coogler's second movie.
What a jerk. Where do you get off being that fucking good?
Fucking talented genius, man. But so to give Michael B. Jordan and that whole team credit, they went a different direction with this in terms of some tonal approaches, stylistic approaches to the way they filmed it. Some giant choices, I'm sure we'll talk about in that last fight, but also just some in general cinematography choices that were so cleanly created as the rules and the principle of the world in number 1 and number 2 that they kind of made a departure from. And yet it ended up kind of feeling like its own thing that still was in the world of emotional impact, successful, family impact, themes of family, and really intense, visceral, and exciting boxing matches. You're always trying to go up against all these wonderful boxing moves that made through the ages. And I think they did some really unique stuff in this one.
There was a trailer for one before my movie. So, but it's funny. I feel like Creed and Fast and Furious should get together and fight it out for who does family better.
They do. And
I feel like Fast and Furious is going to lose because Creed's a fucking good boxer.
Yeah, I mean, and this one is this one has, Fast and the Furious, things like that. What people might not know about Creed that maybe you could tell me, like if you were thinking back on Friday before you had watched these movies, how you thought about it. These movies are not fan fervor for people who enjoy Rocky. They are more than that. Not. It's an interesting take. Both feet are on the ground. It's sincere. It's dramatic. It has wonderful, like hip hop driven, very musical soundtracks that just make you want to, bob your head and fucking pump your fists a little bit, because there's a lot of pump you up stuff in these movies.
And also,
but the drama is sincere.
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, this is. No, I'm still there. You're just lagging. Something's going on with your Wi-Fi on your end. No, it's.
Damn.
This is. I'm trying to think of how to put it. It's like the fight is secondary. There's so much other shit going on in his life, and it's like a classic tale of like, be ready for the fight of your life, because life is going to fuck you at every chance it gets, and it does fuck with him in all three movies. Like there's some major crisis happening secondary to the fight that puts the fight in the background. It's like we're going to focus on this for a minute, and it's done so well. Like, because if it was a movie just about boxing, it's like you could make one of those. Like, it's boring. But again, the same thing happened with like the first Rocky. I'll make that comparison in as a compliment, because there is so much story build up, and they set up the world and set up this kid, and it's all done very, very well. So yeah, I love this. All as a trilogy.
I totally agree. Well,
as a trilogy, they should probably stop if they've learned anything from Rocky. Although Rocky 4 was still pretty good.
I don't think
we wouldn't have Drago if it wasn't for Rocky 4.
Anyone who has seen this movie knows. Yeah. And the straight up Drago homage here in this one. I think that clearly we're not going to give any spoilers away just yet, but anyone who has seen this movie knows that they may have opened the door to continuing with a different storyline. I hope they don't. I hope they put, close the door on this and say, well done, we all crushed it, let's move on. Anyway, can you still hear me okay, Dave? I feel like you're making a...
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, folks, my fucking internet.
No, that's just my resting face. Yeah.
Okay, it's resting bitch face. All right. Yes. Let's move into spoilers, and we can kind of chop it up a little bit. All right.
Resting bitch face. All right, spoilers. Here we go with spoilers. All right, we're into spoilers. We are going to ruin this movie if you continue listening and haven't seen it. You've been warned.
Truly, we really are. I feel like I must admit, this fucking terrible, dude. I feel like I should move.
It was fine earlier.
I know. I don't know what's happening.
It's possible the aliens have come back for you. I don't know. I will say this. I love how realistic the ending of this film was, because it just finishes with two guys crying in a dressing room, which, to be honest, would have been me after one punch, to be honest. Like, first time you cop a punch in the face, I'm in the green room crying. We're done. Especially some of the hits in this movie. Dude, in Dolby Cinema, you could feel that shit. Like, they worked the Atmos soundtrack. Like, if you watch this, if you get a chance, watch it in Atmos, you will feel every fucking thing.
Yeah, it was brutal. I think the thing I'm excited to talk the most about is I felt like this one, unlike the first two, the violence is still real in the first two. Like, you feel it. But there's there was something more horrific about the way that they showed some of the violence in this one. I heard and saw people in my audience, including myself a couple times, really, really cringing and like viscerally and vocally reacting to some of the cheap shots and the more brutal hits. And it was almost like, I almost felt like Michael B. Jordan approached some boxers and asked them, like, what are we not showing? What have you not seen yet? And it's almost like they talked to him about all the different ways that the violence occurs in these boxing matches, from the taking out your mouthpiece and some teeth have fallen out, to the way that certain things, to the way that certain hits feel. I don't know. I just felt like he really took, pardon the pun, he really took the gloves off with how they were going to cover some of this violence, because it was brutal. It was super brutal. It didn't feel as safe. And I think part of that, for me, tell me if you disagree, Dave, was that the coverage on this was really tight. There was a lot of really tight coverage on the actual boxing moments. Ryan Coogler and Rachel Morrison, I think she shot the first one, Come at me if she did not. I can check that, but I think she shot the first one with him. They established a really wonderful language in the first Creed. There was a lot of very long oneers, a lot of moving, and you know, the staging and everything was happening inside of these long takes. And they continued that a little bit in Creed 2. There is definitely a homage to that. This one there was some of it, but when they were in their heavier moments inside the ring, it was a lot of cutting.
Very punchy.
And not in a gross, quick way. Yeah,
intended.
it wasn't like, it wasn't as much as like Raging Bull. Like that. It wasn't nearly trying to go into that style where it was really cut. But there was definitely cuts. And what it lended itself to was speed ramps and speed slowdowns in their tighter close-ups when people were getting hit. But I don't know. I thought it was very horrific. I thought this one was dark in a sense.
It was
that the other two weren't quite as dark.
To highlight. It was definitely designed to highlight the fact that this fucking hurts. And I think it was more the raw style that like Jonathan Major's character was fighting with. Like he was a beast. He was the villain. He was the beast as such. So he wasn't afraid to hurt you. He wanted to hurt you because he was fighting from a place of anger. So whenever that happened, they really stuck on that. Like there were those as well. They obviously threw the high frame camera in there for some of the hits and stuff like that. But a lot of that's done with.
Dave, do you know how they do that?
It's usually air pressure, and the hand is put in digitally. That's how I've seen it done before.
Okay.
So they'll hit you with an air gun and blow your face, and then the hit, like it's some of it's manually painted, and then the hand is put in. That's how I've seen it done before.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what they did with this. Yeah.
It looks so real.
Like it doesn't feel good. Like you're copping like a high pressure air gun in the face. But yeah.
Yeah. Like fucking No Country.
You know what?
Gun?
They may have just scanned his head and CG'd it. Like none of that might have been real. They're that good now.
Yeah, I was wondering how much of that they were doing, but
certainly the rippling in slow motion, all that stuff could have been like full CG. It might have been a human scan.
You talked about the these dealing with these themes of family, the way they always push Adonis, Michael Jordan, his character, into these terribly inconvenient scenarios where he's always going against dealing with some kind of trauma in his personal life, and having to take it out into the ring. Again, this seems kind of like an obvious choice.
His patient wife.
Because they did this. I know, his patient wife. It's almost like they in Rocky 1 and Rocky 3, I believe, Creed is a part of those stories, right? And 4.
And
he dies in 4, right?
Yeah.
And it's fun that they, in the first 2 of these reimaginings, these Creed movies, they did not have Adonis fighting someone who was a part of his familial trauma, and that they returned to it for this one. That the issues he's dealing with in his past, that do eventually affect, his wife and daughter and his relationship with them. His mother is somewhat involved, but she has her own health issues and, passes away. And so that's a separate thing. But I'm just saying, I think it's great that they allowed him to literally, very, very literally, the person who was creating the trauma in his personal life was the person he was fighting. They haven't done that yet in these reimaginings, and I thought it was great that they held off.
I do like one thing I do like though is the thread that they have going through between the 3 movies of the relationship that he has with his girlfriend, then wife, then obviously mother of his child, and that's a story thread that flows through 3 movies consistently well. Despite having different people on the writing team every single time, they've kept that thread going, and it was what grounded everything. It was like when everything else is going wrong, you come back to that, and I found that a really good thing as far as the writing was concerned.
I was kind of curious if they were going to so much of the so much of the specific difficulty that he goes through in the second movie has to do with the fact that his daughter is deaf. She suffers from the same degenerative hearing loss that his wife does. Tessa Thompson's character is just more advanced, so the daughter is basically born totally deaf. They show her in a deaf school, but I thought it was interesting that they chose to normalize that it really wasn't as much of an issue, and to really make the daughter's issue be more about now Creed has a child and he's starting to see that she is interpreting physical violence as a way to go through life.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could have gone a little further with that for me. It didn't take anything away from it. I wasn't sitting there saying they missed it, but I was kind of wondering why he had his personal issues going on with that we'll get into with Jonathan Majors' character and his past, which was creating a big gap of communication with him and Tessa Thompson, his wife. And the daughter was a part of that, but I thought they were going to go even further with the girl almost becoming socially adept to being able to handle that stuff at school. I thought she was maybe going to get kicked out of school and really kind of become like, because one thing that they return to in this one that people sometimes I think forget, because it only really gets established in the beginning of the first Creed, is that he grew up in group homes and on the streets, and he didn't have this luxurious background. That's not what most of his childhood was.
Yep.
That's not what his formative years were made from. So I thought maybe they were going to go really far with it, and she was going to be like a serious problem child. They chose not to, and I don't know. How did you feel about that?
I mean, I think if that would have added, half an hour to the movie, made it over 2 hours, because these are a tight 2 hours, most of them. I think that would have been too much. And I feel like it was a discipline thing, or maybe a creative decision not to go down that path if they were gonna. But I felt like her that incident at school was meant to highlight the difference between the parents and how they deal with that incident. Because again, it's drilled home that he's still not communicating. He only fights. He doesn't know any other way to solve the problems and stuff like that. And I feel like that was a good discussion between the parents. So that worked for me. And
like you said earlier, if they planned on this being the bow on the box for all three, you're right. You don't want to open up an issue that can really truly not be resolved in your final one. You really do want to wrap it up. So no, that makes sense. So let's talk about the big heavy antagonist and what really is the crux of this entire story. Jonathan Majors' character.
Yep, just give him all the villain jobs.
How did
you
like? I mean, he's fantastic. I just want to clarify. I want to put this out there. I know I kind of gave I gave some shit out there because I wasn't totally sold on his accent work and Ant-Man when we were talking about that. But just to say it one more time, I think he is just a super talent, and I'm excited that he's only 33. I think we're going to see him making amazing performances come to life for the next 40 50 years, and I'm so excited. He's such a good actor.
I will watch that guy open a fucking envelope. I don't care what it is. I'm a big fan of Jonathan Majors.
Did you see The Harder They Fall?
No.
Last year, the Western, I think it's on Netflix, all black cast in like a all black stylized Western.
Watching that this week.
It's fucking cool, dude. It is awesome. It is fun. It's a fun movie. And so check that out. He's really good in that. But yeah, let's just talk really quickly about one thing. I wasn't concerned, but I'm always excited when movies pull it off. They show you a little bit of this in the trailer so you go into this movie knowing, okay, we're going to see some flashbacks with young actors playing these men. And I thought they fucking nailed it. I thought they did a really good job. And I thought the way they peppered in the completion of that flashback, when it cuts to him actually running on the street at the very end, they hold off until the very end to show you how he actually dealt with that situation. I mean, that was emotional, dude. What a great lesson in how to you do not have to give them all the exposition in the exposition.
Yeah.
How do you bring exposition into your entire storyline? That was really well done.
Also it's that because you don't see it like the whole event until the very end, it's kind of like, well, who's telling the truth about how this went down? So exactly, because that's one thing I like. Jonathan Majors tends to pick his villains when he plays them, in that sense of it's just, you're kind of asking yourself, well, how right is he? It's like you're like drawn to him because he's so charismatic as a villain. I've only ever seen him play a villain so far, but like you're drawn to him, and you kind of I mean, it's down to the writing as well, but the performance certainly helps nail it. Whatever he puts forward, it's like convincing. Every time he plays a villain, he has a convincing argument for why he's like that, and be it like,
okay, so I wanted to ask you, like, if you've been thinking about this the way I have. I'm a big fan of Mr. Coogler's work, and I think Michael B. Jordan is as well. This whole world is kind of all involved here. So let me try to unpack this. This is not the first time or the second time that Ryan Coogler and his team, his brother, typically co-writing with him, producing with him, Michael B. Jordan being involved in this stuff in Creed and Black Panther, where there is a righteous antagonist.
Yeah.
Where they have, this is a theme that he clearly likes to play with, where you see somebody who in another movie could be the hero. And he tries to make their ambition. And you said it earlier, you said it well, he's fighting from a place of anger and not from a place of justice.
Yeah.
And what is just? Maybe justice isn't even the right word. Not from a place of balance or a place of seeking some kind of retribution. Even that, I don't know. There's so many.
There was a screenwriting.
You know what I mean, though. They all have a chip on their shoulder
on character, and I can't remember who did it, but the one quote I always took away from it.
Robert McKee, was it that guy?
It was McKee, yeah. I carry the book around everywhere, so yeah, I can't believe I forgot his name just then. But the quote was, "No one is ever truly evil. They just think they're right." And it's
but let's
what
take
a
that
great
even further,
way to write villains.
Aaron Sorkin always, he said it a million times in different interviews and masterclasses and stuff that, every character, good or bad, in the eyes of the story, every character should be written as though they are pleading their case before God. They're dead. Am I going to heaven? Or everybody is fighting for their life here,
which is great because in Aaron Sorkin's film, you have to be eternal before they finish two lines.
Well, this is great. I had a story teacher, Alex Condon, who actually is the writer of the movie Air that's coming out. I'm sure you saw that with Matt Damon, Ben Affleck about the Air Jordan shoe.
Oh, that's
He's
cool.
the writer of that. He was talking to us a couple of weeks ago, and he was giving a little presentation on story, and he was talking about this specifically, and he said, "Why do you think you always see that line? We're not so different, you and I."
Yep.
It's almost like that's what's existing in the screenwriter's head, because when you're writing
one twisted event changed.
Yeah, but we are both ambitious. We are both fighting for what we believe in, protagonist and antagonist. But I'm going to take this a step even further, because the antagonist and a good actor is going to do this no matter what. And a good writer is going to try to make some room for a good antagonist to always have that space. But they usually seem more evil than these Coogler characters. These people always seem to they're always aggressive and angry. They're always working from a place of intense violence. But he gives them so much to work with in terms of justification. They're usually fucking right.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like how things should be seen just subjectively. If they didn't have those character flaws bound in the way that they're emoting their actions, if they're, the cheap shots, like the way they give Jonathan Majors, like he does. What would have been different about this movie if he was a super clean fighter? He would have been the hero.
Yeah.
I was just trying to pick out like what are the things that are giving us these flaws. Yeah. So I just thought it was beautiful.
But it's funny as well.
That he's still unpacking that theme.
That it comes full circle in that this entire movie could have been avoided if they just got together, had a cry, and apologized to each other.
Well, but no, it couldn't, right? Because in the world of Creed, in the world of male rage, these men needed to fight.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that,
once you beat the shit out of each other, then you can have a cry and apologize.
I want to tip my hat to them because I do think they pulled it off. Yeah. But I think this scene, the most difficult scene, I think in this movie for them to write and to sell is the scene when after his mother passes, R.I.P. Felicia Rashad's character, she had a beautiful scene there at the end before she passed.
Oh, that was fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was sad. She did a good job. But the scene right after that, the midpoint of this movie, is when Tessa Thompson and Michael B. Jordan are sitting there alone talking to each other, and he finally admits to all the things from his past that Dame is a part of, the abuse he suffered as a child. And somehow in this, just think about the screenwriter. They were sitting there. They were like, how the fuck do we get, by the end of this conversation, she needs to say, even though I've told you to stop, that fighting isn't the answer to everything. And we don't want to set this example for our daughter when it's personal. She literally, by the end of that scene says, then you got to go fight him. So, I mean, that is a tall order. And that may have been the only moment in the movie where you have to put on your Creed cap, you have to put on your Rocky cap and realize, of course they're going to fight. So don't think there's any way that they're not going to fight. Tell me this, Dave, though. This is one thing that I really thought they were considering. I thought this movie was going to end without a winner. And I thought they were going to have some big cry and hug. And at the end, like, tie, nobody's declared a winner. We beat the shit out of each other. We both lost and we both won because of it. Yeah. But they didn't do that. And it was a beautiful moment at the end in the locker room.
It was, I don't think it, because he, like, while he was an understandable villain at the beginning, by the time we got to the ring, no. He was absolutely over the edge. He was not. There wasn't much doubt there. He'd already like said things and stuff like that. There was no coming back from. It was like, this fight needs to happen.
I know what you mean. I know, and the fight did need to happen, but it's just really good writing that in Michael B. Jordan's montage when he's training, from that moment that I was talking about Tessa onwards, especially when he finally confronts and recognizes and vocalizes where he's coming from to his wife and to himself. Even throughout that training montage, when you get all those wonderful flashbacks of him actually running away from the incident as a child, even though we're supposed to be feeling like Jonathan Majors was becoming more and more of a cocky asshole in getting his retribution, I was starting to think even more that, God, this isn't his fault. They were kids. So that line at the very end of the movie, it's a beautiful scene. The line at the end of the movie when Michael B. Jordan apologizes to him and just says, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything and for what happened. Jonathan Majors says, that's not on you, man. We were kids. We were just kids. And I really did, by the end of that movie, I think this is what they wanted. Even though Jonathan Majors the fight needed to happen. We wanted Michael B. to win. We wanted Creed to come out on top and still claim some kind of victory. We didn't want it to be at the sacrifice of their redemption toward each other. Yeah. And because of that locker room scene,
he was already well established as a fighter who didn't hold a grudge after a fight. Because, like, he had Drago in his fucking party and stuff. Like, he was almost friends with him now after almost, getting killed by him in the previous movie. Stuff like that. I want to quickly switch over to tone. In that fight, when they suddenly go to full black around the ring, and then they punch out to an empty stadium. I know what they were trying to do, but that did not sit well with me at all.
So I read an interview about that specifically. Yeah. Those are so. Apparently, again, first directorial debut. He made a bold choice. Let's at least give it up to him for making a bold choice. He said he was.
I was on board by the end of it, but like for a second there, it took me out. Thing. Yeah, I was like, oh, they haven't done that before.
Well, they haven't done that, especially the way you as a package watching all three. These movies are grounded in realism for the most part. There are stylistic choices with some cinematography to slow things down and to move a certain way, of course. But like we said earlier, the drama and the storytelling is realism. It is very much realistic. He said that he was super inspired for that sequence by anime, by specifically in a lot of anime, whenever two characters are getting into a huge fight, they do this effect where they pull them away into a stark vacancy where it's just the two of them and they can almost say anything to each other that they can't say in the reality, whether or not they're fighting at that time, or it's just like a soliloquy style. And he said, I really wanted to implement that into the fight.
I mean, that's great, but I'm not watching anime. I'm watching Creed 3. You can't sneak a fucking anime in at the third movie all of a sudden. It was weird.
I'm wondering if they played with cutting that up a little bit so that it wasn't just like a naked 3 or 4 minute sequence where they're that's what they're doing. I wonder if they had kind of used those moments more intermittently so that it felt like they were alone fighting each other.
Like when they both
may have worked better
exactly the same way and slugged each other, and then suddenly the crowd came back. I was like,
"What did we just see?"
I was like, "No," I was like, good. That was fucking powerful. But the way we got there, I didn't like. I feel like I don't know. It should have been more gradual or something, so it wasn't quite as shocking.
I agree. I think they should have cut that up. Yeah, it could have been a part of it, and it could have been a really great device to show us that, man, nobody needs to be here. They just needed to have this fight.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It was a little strange they chose to lean into it.
That's a good one.
Yeah. No. I totally agree. And you're right. That moment, that transition out of that was ridiculous and may never actually happen in real life, but that was super cool the hit at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Very Matrix. Very, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. Can we talk for just a second about the production design? I want to live in every single house that was in any place that they were at in this movie. This is a Los Angeles-based film. They made it in LA. The Crenshaw district is talked about, visited just a hair towards the end when we see where Jonathan Majors is training in the last half. But the rest of this movie is just these houses are sick. Having the final fight in Dodger Stadium, I thought it was kind of cool that they just tried to say, you know what, this movie, we're going to try to make LA a character here, which you don't see all the time, especially nowadays. LA usually pretends to be other places, and they were like, no, this is LA. This is like it's the whole story. So I thought that was kind of cool that they just leaned into that as much as they did.
They did it better than La La Land.
Oh, come on. I still really like that movie. I still really like it.
I had somewhere I was going to go. God, it's gone. Carry on.
That's okay. I enjoyed them, and I'm glad that they just brushed up against it and that Jonathan Majors did not try to fuck Tessa Thompson. I'm glad there was just a little bit of him. It wasn't intimate or romantic at all, but I'm glad they just let him splinter into their relationship just a hair. And just say a little bit to mess with her, get in her head about how's it feel seeing other people sing your songs. And then when he dropped it, was that me? You can't hear me?
No. That was me scratching.
I thought you were saying, I thought you were saying, I can't hear you or stop talking.
No. That was me sending private messages to Jeff.
Yeah. Fuck you, Jeff. Jeff, God damn it, dude. Where are you? I thought that was really great. And then he, talking about Michael P's past and stuff. I thought that was really nice. And then I do want to give a big shout out. I thought the soundtrack was really fun. Emotional when it needed to be emotional.
Did you see this in Dolby Cinema?
Just fucking headbangers when it needed to be awesome and pump you up when it needed to be awesome. Smooth and sexy at her her label party. Yeah. That was a sick song.
Did you see this really in Dolby?
Oh yeah,
because the Dolby mix was phenomenal.
Fucking
in this.
Sick, dude. Yeah, so good.
Dude. Like it was good.
I've been listening to it.
Did you find it weird that suddenly there's Rocky's nowhere to be seen? Like he was a driving force in the first one, and he was a presence in the second one because of the Drago thing. This one, granted, had nothing to do with him, but suddenly he's just gone.
Yeah, Dave, I'm not going to lie. As much as I'm praising the first and second movie, when I still haven't, I knew they were on HBO, and I took Elizabeth to see this one as always, and she loved it, and she's never seen the first and second one, so we're going to totally watch the first and second one together. I could not remember if he died or was super sick at the end of the second one.
No, he was fine. He'd beaten it by the second one. He went and visited his son at the end of the second one.
Then absolutely, it's fucking weird that he did not appear.
Yeah.
That is strange. I understand why they didn't want to have the Obi-Wan every time Creed's in trouble, he goes back to his master kind of thing. Jesus Christ, I heard what I just said. That was not a racial slur. Oh my God.
Just in case.
Goes back to the sage character, the trainer, but man, I was hoping that he was going to call Rocky to train him. Weren't you?
Yeah. I
was like, get that guy out of the fucking woodwork.
Even if it was a phone call, like it could be, that scene could have been on the phone. I don't know. I feel like just to cut him out completely, it was too much. I thought they were going to wean yourself off Rocky Balboa.
I thought they were going to give us like a phone. That's great. I thought they were going to cut his montage sequence in half because they did such a good job as they needed to show us old dog, new tricks kind of thing that it was just not going well anymore.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to train through it. And they chose, they made a really bold choice with him getting punched by Drago and having that wonderful flashback. But I thought they were literally going to pause it. He was going to be convinced I can't do this. And then Rocky was going to come out of the woodwork, call him, show up, something like that.
Like that, even like one of the best scenes in the second movie is the speech in the hallway over his daughter with her hearing possibly, and
Don't
he's
you
like,
pity her.
He's like, well, what's like? Are you gonna love her? And he's like, well, of course. He's like, then what's the problem?
Like, yeah, exactly. God, that's a good scene.
It's a fucking great scene.
Yeah, dude. Oh, it's so touching.
Yeah.
So I completely agree. I don't know why. I don't know if they went back and forth. I don't know if they said, this is not Rocky's franchise anymore.
Or
maybe this is the way we're going to solidify
maybe Sly was just done. I mean, maybe he read the script too. He
and
handed
he
it
said,
over graciously. He supported it, and then it was time
to be a part of this.
Well, no, it's time to stand on their own. Like they don't need help.
Yeah.
Creed was on its own. Like it was a success by itself.
Now, but this is a weird business thing because I know what you're saying, but they taught us thematically that he's in the family.
Yeah,
they taught us that. So that was such a big, huge reason for me. The fighting in these movies is awesome.
I mean,
the filmmaking is awesome.
He should have been at the
All
funeral
the guys
at least.
Yeah, I thought that was really, now that you're clarifying, because I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't sure. I thought it was really strange. And I think they may have written themselves against their theme by taking him out of it.
Yeah.
Because he packs his presence. It's not Sylvester Stallone, who he does a wonderful acting job in both the movies, but it's not the performance of superstar Sylvester Stallone as much as it is that Rocky is kind of a vehicle for Creed to discover these themes. And for him to just not be there as a presence in any way, even a fucking letter, something, a picture, some memory, anything like that would have at least reminded us that he's still a part of it, because family is always a part of it. And he's fucking family. I thought that was kind of strange too. I know what you mean. Performance wise, what'd you think about these two men just duking it out as actors as well? Like I couldn't stop thinking about it. You know, the famous Heat, you know, you finally see Pacino and De Niro together, and there's some really wonderful movies. What's that movie with Judi Dench and Cate Blanchett? Where they're just fucking
cats.
God damn, what's the name of that movie? No, Jesus Christ. Oh, God damn, what's the name of that movie? I feel like such an asshole. Where you just see these titans, you know, just really duking it out. I kind of couldn't stop thinking about just the scene work. I don't know if they did rehearsal. I don't know how much they talked to each other about going into this, but when they finally got to just talk to each other, that diner scene was fantastic at the beginning. Just them really establishing after that wonderful opening when they're kids.
And that was where
this
they
is
did
their dynamic.
That's where they did stick to the long take. It was just literally a camera set and left, and you just were watching two really good fucking actors go at it. And like I don't think there was a single moment where I was like, oh, these guys are acting in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So even in the fight scenes, like the training involved, oh my God. Like it made me tired.
Impeccable shape.
Not only did the montage make me tired, all the way through it, I had, you gotta have a montage from like South Park in my head. So
yeah. I know they're in impeccable shape. Hats off to the editors and the team for how, I think like 40 minutes went by before Jonathan Majors took his shirt off. They really made the audience wait, even though. And I kind of wish they had not shown that in the trailer, because dude's got it fucking going on. That man is large in this movie. He's probably big in Ant-Man too. He's just got a bunch of clothes on, but boy, oh boy, is he big in this movie. That was just so impressive. Well, I don't know, Dave. I think we tackled it, and I think you've made me desperately want to go finish writing this little screenplay I'm working on so I can watch fucking Creed 1 tonight, because I want to dive back in. The fighting was great. Do you have a standout like a fight sequence? Because there are some great fights in this, but is there a particular punch out sequence or a sequence that really got you?
I think in this one, I don't know. I think like this one was a straight up brawl, so I think I preferred the fight in Creed 2.
Nice.
Because I don't know whether you noticed, but we got all the way through that fight with very little bleeding.
Yeah.
Like they still looked pretty okay by the end of it. But like the Drago fight was hard. That looked like it really fucking hurt. So yeah.
When he almost can't get up again. Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed, shout out to Guy Ritchie's first Sherlock Holmes, or the second Sherlock Holmes, because they really took that from, I mean, that's done so well in the Robert Downey Jr. fight scene at the beginning, but I really liked how Michael B. Jordan played with that in the very first Creed match at the beginning of this movie before he, quote, retires. Mm-hmm. And he's just taking the hits and just analyzing his open hole so that he can wait for the right punch.
That was good.
I really enjoyed that. I kind of wish, even though you established it, I was thinking about that Sherlock Holmes movie, but not in a bad way. It's always fun to watch. That's what I think good fighters are doing. I wish they would have returned to that a little bit more than they did at the very end, where he was waiting to see.
I was kind of expecting that too. They gave you a little bit of it, but I was
at the very end.
I was expecting the same thing, where he like takes the beating to analyze, and then
especially because Duke. That guy was fantastic too. Man, I always think of him as the dude from Remember the Titans. What the fuck is his name, man? Wood Harris. Such a good actor. He's great in all these movies. He says in the montage when he's training Michael B, he says, and don't forget, Dame's been studying your shit his entire life. He's going to know every single thing you could do. All he's done is think about how you fight. So I thought that was even more of a reason for them to have started. I wanted to get inside Michael B's head a little bit and analyze Dame's fighting style while it was happening. Yep. And I wish they would have done it a little bit more. It was still a fantastic fucking fight, but I think they kind of just put that in at the very end. And I wanted to have just a touch more of that in the last round, maybe just to get us in his head. But my God, I love that they allowed them to go 12 rounds. I love that it was a full match. They were exhausted. It was so fun. It made me feel, they all the movies do this, but especially Rocky 1. It made me think about, I just want to last. Well, I mean, I just want to go the distance with them.
The good thing about this is, like, when you went into that fight, like, you're 6 rounds in, you're like, I don't know who's going to win this.
Yeah.
Like, which way are they going?
I like that they allowed the commentators to say that. Yeah. The whole, like, we were not just supposed to be, are they or aren't they? Like, they were talking about the whole time. We can't tell you who's winning this fight. This is incredible. No man is on top. These guys are about to kill each other. It was just, it really did feel like we were watching these titans just get something very personal off their chest.
I haven't heard such good commentation dialogue since Major League, I would say.
Major League. That is
Dude,
the best.
That is the benchmark.
Jason Bateman and Dodgeball. That's pretty good.
Titties.
That shit's pretty funny too, dude. Anyway,
usually you pay extra for that, copper.
God, until you just said that, and I thought of that, I had totally forgotten Bateman did that. That's so funny. Go see this movie, folks. I think unless you have a real issue with violence in film, this is dramatic. It's got everything you're looking for. It's a good boxing movie. If you like the Creed saga, watch it. If you don't know it yet, sit down and fucking watch all 2 of them and then go see this.
In the middle of that, when they say, like, people think boxing's about when he says to his kid, like, people think boxing's about the violence, but it's not. It's about analyzing your opponent and timing and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, it is. Like, because, like, I've been exposed to boxing my whole life. Like, my family used to take me to it when I was a kid, and I worked in TV for a while, running, like, in the truck, running, like, camera color correction units in the cameras and stuff like that. It was, I've been surrounded by boxing a long time, and I never once thought, it's just 2 guys, not thought anything other than it's 2 guys beating the shit out of each other. But there's an art to it, and I didn't realize it until I saw this film.
I mean, how many idioms are there about related to boxing? You're on the ropes. You got to get back up before the countdown.
Yeah.
You're fighting yourself. You're not fighting the opponent. All these things, they come, it's like, this is a sport that is so intertwined with.
Write your name on your wrist before you start, because you won't remember it afterwards. Like, all of those.
Dude, so many good things. I'm just I had a really great time. I really enjoyed watching this.
I enjoyed it as well.
Maybe it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure, but God, I just love boxing movies. Yeah, sure. Sure. Well deserved. We did it.
Well done.
Well done. Well done. Well done.
All right.
Well, let's wrap it up.
That brings us to what you been watching.
What you been watching, dude? Do you want to kick it off?
You know what? You go first.
All right, I will go first. I watched this week. I'm still going with. Let me look this up, just because I don't want to fuck it up. I'm still watching Drive to Survive.
Okay.
The F1 series on Netflix. Have not started season 3 of Mandalorian, as we joked about at the beginning. Fuck you, Jeff. And I got to watch a really cool movie from a little known country called Australia. 2016. It's called Goldstone.
Literally never heard of it. No.
It's
I mean,
it's
I left
what is known as
in 2013. So
sure. This is a movie worth watching. It's there's a whole genre dedicated what they call Outback Noir. So it's like a law detective crime drama set in the unbearable, raw, intense daylight of the Outback in Australia.
Wow, it was ball soup sweaty in the Outback that day.
there's no voice, honestly. Crikey, it's fucking hot today.
I could cook an egg on a fucking radiator.
Cook an egg on a fucking radio. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. It was pretty good movie. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I think people should consider watching it. It was good.
Cool.
What'd you watch?
I am 3 episodes deep now on Picard. Loving it. I watched the third one today where you get a very familiar character turn up back in the series, and I pissed myself laughing at almost every second line of dialogue he had. It was great.
Is it Q?
No, he was in season 2. He's done.
Okay.
I've gone on an indie sci-fi fantasy kick lately, so I've started watching There's Something in the Dirt and Slayers. Something in the Dirt's a bit slow to start, but it gets weird after about 25, maybe 30 minutes into the film. Before that, it's just a lot of dialogue between two people, but it's picking up. Slayers, on the other hand, is a group of basically it runs on the premise that vampires have existed for a long time, and now their latest thing is to release this cure for all illness, and it's basically going to turn everyone into fucking vampires. But this group of streamers have been invited, and this one guy who has a Slayer origin story briefly turns up to try and get the streamers to stop the vampires. It's ridiculously funny so far because every time someone dies, a fucking scoreboard pops up with Slayers 0, vampires whatever. They're up to. So at the moment, they're losing. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the movie, and they're it's 7-0. So it's
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, you can tell they've got 15 funding logos at the beginning of them. But it's the genre I kind of want to work in. So now that I'm going to have some free time on my hands, I want to start watching all that stuff.
I also watched. Did you watch the last week's episode of The Last of Us?
Not yet. No, I'm a bit behind.
Okay.
We had a week last week where we're can't do the drama right now.
I feel you. I'm not going to give anything away, but I did watch that, and I'm hoping it ramps up. It was still a good episode, but I'm ready for some crazy shit to happen. I'm really ready for it.
I know exactly what it is because I played the game. So that is the entire download content expansion of the game in one episode. And it was a fantastic story then. I'm sure they've done it justice. But yeah, it's about to get real.
Good. I'm excited because it's been really good drama, but I'm kind of forgetting that this is an apocalyptic story where people die. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, strap yourself in for tonight's then because I'm
excited. It's still really good. Don't get me wrong.
Because we're about to encounter one of my favorite characters in the game. So
good.
Yeah.
I'm pumped.
That'd be last night's episode if everyone's listening on Monday. And if you're not listening on Monday, what have you been doing
March 5th episode. And we have tune in because we're going to be dropping our Oscars episode.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
We are going to be dropping
Jeff is out of rehab by then. Yeah. We're going to record that.
So Thursday we'll drop that?
I would say Thursday, yeah.
Yeah. So everybody tune in. The Oscars are Sunday, November 12th.
November?
I still fucking...
Dude,
did I say November?
I know you're in another fucking time zone, but damn.
Wow, sure. Yeah, you know what? I'm out of beer, but I'll take the proverbial drink. March 12th, excuse me. I still like the fucking Academy Awards. I still like the award shows. I still think it's fun to think about these incredible movies and just to see what the industry is thinking about them. I love it. So feel free to tune in.
Is it ironic that Creed 3 came out just before the Academy Awards?
Why would it be?
Well, last year, one of them got smacked the shit out of on stage. So,
wait. Who got smacked?
Chris Rock got the shit smacked out of him on stage by Will Smith.
And is he? Oh, you're just saying that Creed
came out the week before the Academy Awards is on.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Did you see fucking Chris Rock's special?
I'll buzz myself.
Yeah. I'm going to let that one go. Did you see that Chris Rock special is out on Netflix?
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I've seen a short clip and he tears into him. I mean, I was watching him tearing into them. I got a little uncomfortable because he does not hold back.
The whole thing is the whole fight, the whole slap, from the slap on, it's all been really uncomfortable. But whatever. Anyway, this was great. Go watch Creed 3. We will see you in a few days with our Academy Award 2023 Year of 2022 movies show.
Yes. Putting our money where our mouth is.